Welcome back to Savage Lands News. This time we have a brand new segment for you guys called Flesh and Blood Hot Takes, where I take players who are much better at this game and have conversations with them about important things going on in the community. And this week, for our very first episode, we have the Sunflower Samurais, one of the biggest teams in Flesh and Blood, some of the nicest guys in Flesh and Blood. And, they also have Pablo, who is now a two-time Pro Tour National Championship winner. How you guys doing today?
Super good.
Yeah, just mentioned that Pablo has two national championships that
Yeah,
he
two
has
nationals.
none. So
Not
Yeah.
that's how we roll in Spain. Pablo
It's
cannot win the nationals even if he gets like
on-
two Pro Tours.
only two
Yeah.
Pro Tours. It's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
He's just talking about the future.
Yeah.
He's-
Yeah.
He knows
Pro
what's about
Tour
to
champion.
happen.
Yeah.
That now that Max is living in Spain,
Yeah, that's true.
we are finally free from our Germanic lord, and
Oh
we
my
can win the nationals again.
Yeah, Pablo only turns on his competitive game at the top tier events. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No,
Well,
but we're doing great.
that's
Having a wonderful day here in Spain.
having a
Lot of
wonderful
heat.
day.
Lots of heat, though.
Oh, I mean that's better than cold, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. That's awesome. You guys taking it easy after Pro Tour? You guys, is anything cooking on your guys' side? Anything interesting from a testing perspective? Or are you guys kind of relaxing right now?
We're playing a lot of video games and
Yeah.
we talk about the news and all the new stuff that is being released, like the dev talks and
Yeah.
this kind of things. We're playing the ProQuest because some people here want to travel to Singapore, but it's not like we are like super cooking and super testing a lot.
Interesting.
That has been a joint effort on Sunflower Samurai's Discord these last weeks. And we're trying to discover and unravel all of the secrets from blueprints, right? So we are just playing this computer game, all of us. We are not playing Flesh and Blood anymore. I believe we have dropped that till we solve this damned game that is taking away so many hours of my sleep.
Which game
But
is
yeah,
this?
Blueprints. It's a game about drafting rooms. It's a really interesting one. It's I know that it doesn't sound as something so exciting, but it's a puzzle game, and we're like all of our hive mind, sunflower hive mind, which sounds like something powerful, but it is not. I can assure you, it's trying to work towards solving the puzzles in the game, and we're not getting there this far. But yeah, just joking. We're playing some ProQuest as well.
Yeah, you're actually like the second person to tell me about that game in like the last week. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've been playing Expedition 33, Final Fantasy 2. Very, very good, very good.
That's the next one on my list.
It is
Expedition 33.
It's addicting, man. It's so addicting. All right, well, let's just dive right into these kind of the hot topics, if you would, right? Our first one is, I think, one of the doozies in the community right now. It's what everybody's been talking about for like the last month, but it's definitely going to be the LL system. Aurora's skyrocket out of the game within a few months of her Armory deck being released. And there's quite a bit of chatter in the community. It's the LL system is too aggressive. Or, we even had a dev talk recently about bans and LL points and all that kind of stuff. We know she's going to be coming out next year, re-released. And we also know that they had a big misprint in the Armory set, right? So what's your guys' take on the LL system right now?
Not only on the LL system, but on the dev talk as well. I really, really like what LSS is doing with the dev talks. I believe they bring so much insight into what is happening behind the scenes, and it helps ease a lot of players' concerns about the game. But this is the first time that I have not liked seeing both James and Brian punching themselves so hard about this problem. I do realize there is a legitimate concern from the people that had bought the Aurora Armory deck as a pathway, as an entry pathway into the game, to then see this product disappear in 2 months, right? It is not what you want to see. It creates some concerns on people that may drop the game after seeing this happen. But at the same time, I do believe that the LL system is truly a masterclass on designing something new on the TCG space, which is often bloated and worked upon the same systems once and once again. And I do really believe that it's one of the key things that differentiates Flesh and Blood from other card games. And I really, really want it to stay maybe we need to make some small changes as they suggested during the dev talk. But I do think that it is a thing of beauty, right? It's a beauty when it works, because you see how people rally behind heroes they hate to win tournaments, so they leave the game.
Yeah.
Just remember the cheer in Lille when Prism 1.0 won the
Mhm.
tournament and she was out. Like
Yeah, there was a
crowd
huge
erupted.
uproar on the room. It was amazing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that it is beautiful to see a hero's journey, right? When they get introduced into the game and when they leave. Yeah, of course there will be some bumps into the way onto the way there, and we have some decks that have skyrocketed out of out
Yeah.
of the LL system. But I wouldn't be so sad. I trust these guys. I know that they know what they are doing, and they will find a solution. I'm 100% sure. And I do really, really enjoy seeing how the LL system works, and especially with the change they made where a deck can leave mid-season, right? So people are like tracking the results on every ProQuest weekend, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Aurora needs 100 more points. Maybe she will leave. Maybe I will need to change my deck for the next ProQuest. What I am playing next week? What will the meta game be, right? And I believe that's beautiful, and it's really, really fun.
So I really believe that the Living Legend system, as it's in place right now, it's okay. I think that there's a couple of issues there. One of them is actually, and they talked about this in the dev talk, the fact that the LL system is not something to regulate the power of the decks. Really, it's not like, okay, a deck is too powerful; it needs to just hit LL and go. The fact is that they need to do bans to adjust these levels of power in the decks, and they mentioned already that they thought that they had to do some emergency ban after Aurora after the Pro Tour, and they didn't because they had felt that they had been using that mechanism too much in the past.
Mm.
And I believe also that the fact that they thought that they were using it too much, and the fact that it was also this newer players designed product, that they didn't want to implement it. But I think that they have learned from it, because they mentioned that they want to do more proactive use of the banned and restricted list, so the decks just don't go out of hand easily. And if that's the case, the decks should not be leaving Legend in like 5 to 6 months, and they should be taking like
Yeah.
15 to 18 months, like they mentioned that it's like their gold standard. And also there's also an issue as well, and I know that Danny talked about this a lot, which is the fact that there's the living legends. They are given out over the year, but they are like concentrated within a few months. I don't know, Danny, if you have anything about that.
Yeah. At the end, all the ProQuest season, the Road to Nationals, and the Pro Tour in the first Pro Tour of the year is all on the same like space of time on those 6 months, and there you have to concentrate a lot of living learning points on that period. So as they I have to say this that in this perspective, in the living perspective, they designed these sets really well because Miss Vale, for example, all the heroes, yes, were super paired going up. So you see now it's 10, now it's Enigma, now it's 10, now it's new, now it's 10, like everything comes at the same way. And that sometimes can create problems because we see like a lot of heroes are like super ahead. And in this kind of seasons, in this period we're living now, there is a lot of heroes living the game. We have
Yeah.
Enigma, we have Aurora, we have Viserai, we have, all these ones. And on the other side, that's something that makes me sad. This happened a lot with the aggressive decks, with all these aggression decks, that the best one is the one that is played in big tournaments. As it's not an archetype that you are just transforming all your hands in aggression, the one who makes this better is winning the tournaments. So it makes me a little bit sad to see that Aurora's leaving the game and you see Fi there with 900 points saying, I want to be a deck again and with the tournament. And that OG dash and all that stuff. It's the only
Yeah.
thing that maybe should be good to allow these heroes to leave the game.
My opinion is similar to Sagi. I think Living Legend is it's okay. The problem we have in this month is that we get about 3 4 heroes that go together. Where we have Aurora, we have Zen, Enigma, Viserai. But Viserai was with us for years. Maybe Aurora is the great problem. But if you think about Zen or Enigma, it's true that they go too fast. But James and Brian said in the depth talk that they have to use more the ban unrestricted emergency list. Because then, if they use the bans before they do, because when they ban the art of war, all those things, Zen was at 500 living legend points or so. If they do before, surely we have Zen much more time with us. Uh, the big problem with Aurora is that a very strong deck played by a lot of people, deck think for new people, and that traduces in lot of living legends in very short time.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do need to be heavy handed with bans, right? I mean, like they misprinted one of her key cards in the armory set, and I think that had a lot to do with her power level. Um, and then, there's also a lot of conversation, which popular heroes, I think the big one, popular heroes coming in and being played by everybody across all the RTNs has an impact, which I know not everybody agrees with, but a lot of people are saying that that's a big part of why Aurora LL2, right? Like she's just popular. But the other thing I think is that there's a disparity of classes right now, a little bit, right? So the Living Legend leaderboard is 100% Runeblade at the top, right? Like they're first place by a mile. They have the most LL points of any class in the game. Every Runeblade ever is on their way to LLing right now. Um, I think one of the issues we're going to see is that Runeblades are just a popular class that has very powerful cards. And like, what are they going to do with Aurora 2? Right? Like, you could have no hero text on that on that hero, and she would be almost as good, almost exactly as good, right? Uh,
Yeah, we say that in our last podcast. We say exactly that words, that if Aurora come back with no text, it's gonna be the same problem.
yeah. What are you gonna do? Give her negative text ability, right? I don't know.
They do usually play with health
Yeah,
points, right? With
yeah,
taking away some health points, we have seen that on Prism 2, right?
yeah,
And I believe that maybe they need to do something like that. I get that it won't be easy designing a new uh, Lightning Runeblade, as the card pool is so freaking powerful that
yeah,
it honestly feels constructing like it gives no room to explore anything new, I believe, unless the new hero has, as you said, like a negative text, or she needs to jump through some hoops to extract full value from the cards, because the class is just blessed with so many 0 for 4s with go again, and powerful on hits and whatever. and
yeah,
and as I was talking with my friends earlier, and I do think that, as much as I love the Living Legend system, there are some problems with cards that are not rotating. Heroes
yeah,
rotate, specializations rotate, and even some key cards that do function in a deck because of the hero's text may, like, soft
yeah,
rotate, right? They do not get to be used anymore into the game. But we do have a problem with equipment. And as you said, we kind of have like this Roomblade experience going right now. Every single Roomblade is getting LL, and I do think that it is because the Roomblade equipment is over the top, extremely over the top.
yeah,
We're talking about Facebook equipment that blocks and offers you Arcane Barrier at the same time, Grasp of the Arknight, a lot of like boots option that do offer
yeah.
like different solutions for every single problem in the game, and they do feel powerful as well, right? And they do have more armor than Guardian somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested in seeing how LSS addresses this problem, because I do think we're going to see this pattern repeat itself in the future. Maybe not with Runeblade. Maybe it will be the next broken glass assassin. Maybe. I don't
Maybe,
know.
yeah.
I'm guessing here, uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but I do think we will see this problem again in the future. And I don't know. Maybe there should be more cards rotating with the heroes. That's
Yeah.
just an idea, but something like that. I would like to see equipments rotating as well at some point.
Yeah, and I just want to go back on the point that you made about popularity and stuff. And I don't think that popularity really has to do anything, because we have seen how some heroes can be popular, and you will find your Reinars and you will find your Victors in the tournaments, even they are not doing good. The
Yeah.
issue is when the deck is just above the line. And Danny just made the mention as well, like when we're talking aggressive decks, there's always one aggressive deck which is better than the rest, and that just pushes all of the others. So that's why you're going to have like a 30, you're going to have a 40% representation of a deck. It's not because it's popular, it's because it's good and people like winning games.
And also concentrates on an archetype,
Yeah.
because sometimes if you want to play a deck that beat control decks, you are thinking about playing Enigma, and maybe there is no other big answer to control decks than Enigma. That happens the same with aggressive decks. And you're building an aggressive deck that is like a soft start for new players. Also, I think about the Living Legend system is that something that I love, just to as a final thought by myself, is that the Living Legend system allow all of us to feel that we are part of the game, and allows you to create a narrative. In the same
Yes.
way that you create a narrative when you're going into a pro tour or you're playing your pro quest or whatever, the narrative for rotating a hero and being part of your trip in Flesh and Blood for 1 year or 2 years is like super amazing, and it feels super good if
Yeah,
you
putting your
celebrate
name
that.
on that list, right? Like the Hall of Fame or the whatever it's called, right? Yeah,
Roll
slapping
of
your name
Honor.
on that list is the best, right? I'm like almost a 10% of Reinhar's LL points. uh, I think I really like that one idea you called out, the rotating armor with heroes. So at one point in the game, I remember when Runeblades first started getting their triple blocking armor, right? That also doesn't break for some reason when you triple block with it. I remember there was like a piece of me that really enjoys the class fantasy of this game, like the role playing fantasy. And to me, a big part of that role playing fantasy is that Guardians wear plate mail should be tanky and hard to hit, right? Ninjas should be agile and soft, and they shouldn't block that well. And I always thought in the beginning, Rangers kind of like the same vibe, right? I feel like they did that really well in the beginning, WTR, Arcane Rising, stuff like that. And then I understand it was a balance decision because better blocking equipment lets you survive powerful turns, which lets the game be a little bit more smooth. But now we're looking at almost every class guard blocking like a guardian, and I feel like a little piece of that class fantasy has kind of like fallen off, right? I don't love how everybody blocks super well now, right? I don't know. I like the idea of rotating equipment somehow. I think that's cool. All right, our next topic here is it actually came up on my interview with Max, the I forget what you called him, but the boogeyman of your guys'
Or
nationals,
German Overlord.
the German overlord. And this came up in our interview. Fatigue is bad for the game's health, specifically or especially because it interrupts like the new player experience and it leads to inevitability, right? Basically, you sit down and the game is entirely out of your control. The game ends and you're left a little unsatisfied, and it took 55 minutes of your life, right? What's your guys' opinion on fatigue in this game?
Okay, I as a fatigue player myself, I love it. Have to be there. But I understand why people say it's not good for, especially for new people, because people have fatigue as an interactive play mode. And I can remember just a week ago, we have a new player in our armory, and I give him a deck, a Kayo deck. I say that's an easy deck to play for start. and he played Kaio versus Max, and they play, and then they play. When they end, he say me, there is not a lot of interaction in this game, isn't it? They are playing two decks with uh, a little block, no on hits. So maybe the problem more than the fatigue itself is the interaction, the
Yeah.
non-interaction thing.
Yeah, I think that they have to focus more on creating these fatigue strategies and being more interactive, maybe with more on hits or more things like that. Because I I see the point and I agree that for someone who is starting the game, just sit down in front of someone, throw all the deck, lose, and say, okay, why did I lose? If I throw all the deck to my opponent, I couldn't finish the game. They doesn't understand the concept of setting up, building, pitch stacking, and all this stuff. I see the point, but uh, I think that in the future we will see that this design will go better. Maybe with Conjure Blessing out of the game, maybe with the new ban on restricted list, maybe they will
Mm,
ban it.
yeah.
And see this strategy is more like focused like the OG Arachne with all this contract stuff, or maybe the Guardians hitting with big attacks that naturally they can end up fatiguing you, but it's not like
Yeah.
the main thing to do.
I do think that fatigue has a place in Flesh and Blood. I do think that decks that block well and actively want to block are like the opposite of what aggro decks mm, are meant to do in this game, where they always hold their whole hand and attack you with everything they have each single turn, right? So they are operating on like different axes.
Yeah.
A deck wants to always block to get full value out of their hand to properly convert above rate, and the other one is always throwing attacks your way. So they are both ignoring one of the key aspects of the game, right? One
Yeah.
is usually disregarding offense, and the other one is usually disregarding defense. And I believe both have problems. Both can be like bad experience or negative experience for newer players. And I do think it's great to keep those decks in check. I
Yeah.
also think that it is much easier to have tools in the game against these slower, grindy decks than it is to have against the faster, much more aggressive ones. We not only we already have do we already have tools in the game like the hero that's in your back, right? Reiner has always been brought back up when we are in a heavy control meta game.
Yep.
And as he's never going to LL, I'm sure that we always will have that tool available to us when we need it. But I do think that it is really easy to print stuff to be able to fight back against these kind of strategies. I do get why Count Your Blessings has so much of a pushback reaction from the community because it is boring.
Yeah.
It usually means that the game will develop in a fashion where every turn will feel the same and it feels like you're not progressing towards your goals, right? Like, oh, I'm finally doing some damage to this different hero, and oh no, he's back to 30, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that these kind of strategies are like invincible or whatever, but I do think it would be better if we have like clear tools to deal with them. And they do have a spot in the metagame to keep these extremely aggressive decks in check. I also think that it would be better, as Stallion said, to have more proactive options to fatigue people. I believe
Yeah.
that what Nu does, for example, how Nu fatigues other decks, she does it through attacking, right? She attacks and she like banishes cards from the top of your deck, and then she wins lives with her attack. So she is like proactively taking away cards from your deck, which I believe it's the best approach we have seen
Yeah.
to actively trying to fatigue people in this game. Because yeah, OG Arachne is like really cool and whatever, but he's not real. He can't hurt you. Like
It's so sad.
Yeah,
Uh
and I do believe that fatigue in and on itself is actually one of the core tenets of the game in the
yeah.
aspect that it plays on a different axis. It just takes you away from this cycle of turn by turn doing the most value out of your turn into playing a game where you actually have to be thinking about it from the first turn. How is my whole deck value going to stack against the whole deck value of my opponent and play there. And it's something that for the new people, they will be losing their first 5 games to fatigue, and they will not know what happened in the game. But once they start, it's a rite of passage when you learn how to value the value density of your deck along the game, and you
Yeah.
actually develop their strategy, and something clicks, and then you know how to win those games. It's so satisfying.
Yeah.
And then there's also an aspect that I think that I'm going to go back later, because as in the topic say, it's understanding what is the new player experience. The new player experience, it's not going to just go to the armory, lose the game, and feel like, yeah, I couldn't do anything. If the opponent is nice, if the game was nice, if you actually talk to them afterwards, they're going to have a good experience no matter the game that they played. So we have to be very wary that the new player experience doesn't need to be the fine-tuned CC decks in the armory or whatever. It can be playing other formats. It can be playing with not so fine-tuned decks and just go more naturally. You don't need to throw them under the bus directly. Okay, just go play this and not tell him why did he lose. So
Yeah.
Spot the fatigue player.
you're a player, man.
How many reacts did you play on this progress, on this weekend progress?
Oh, I think it was 17.
Also,
I, I truly think that fatigue is, yeah, like it's no more bad for the game's health than overly aggressive aggro decks are, because like both present the same exact problem. You can't make me do anything else but what I wanted to do in the first place. And I kind of like, I truly feel like the old version of Flesh and Blood that a lot of people maybe not have even experienced if you're a new player, but pitch stacking against a slower, heavier deck is so rewarding, right? Like ending a game, I had a couple of these back in the Oldhim meta, ending a game because I pitch stacked Alpha Rampage with a barraging beatdown, a blue, and a 6, and killing you from 13, like knowing that that's going to come in 15 more turns is so satisfying. Um, and I've always found that more fun than like just trying to survive an aggro onslaught from a above rate aggro deck. I don't know. I could see CYB be getting banned though, because it is just the nature of it is kind of frustrating. Like you said, like, oh, I heard them. Never mind. They went back up to 30, and I do wonder if CYB has officially canceled a cleric ever launching in this game. Like, do you think the healing class archetype is just gone forever?
I don't think so. Verdance is a much healthier approach to
Yeah.
the health winning class, right? We have seen that it doesn't need to be full, like not interacting with your opponent stuff. Well, she's usually sometimes
Yeah.
never interacting with you till she blasts you off of the table,
Yeah.
right? Dealing like 80 damage to you in a combo turn. But I do think like the way Verdance plays the
Yeah.
health winning style is much better, or at least much healthier for the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I could.
Also in the Lord book, right? We have the cleric class. Maybe in the
Yeah,
future we will
that's what I'm
see a new
saying.
class with all this one.
Maybe instead of blocking, they get healing, right? So it's like kind of inverse. They don't get to do both. They get like one or the. I don't know. That'd be fun. Okay. The other here's a new topic too that I actually just saw on a Twitter post here. Mastery Pack Guardian. Speaking of fatigue players, there seems to be a couple of you here. Do you think the impact of Mastery Pack Guardian is strong enough to help resurrect the class? Because we're seeing it. I find this one really interesting because we're seeing a lot of Guardian on Guardian hate in these cards, and I don't think that's what Guardian wanted. Not sure. What's your guys' thought on the Mastery Pack stuff we've seen so far?
So I believe the best thing that I have heard about these cards is that there should be an equipment that turns the text into these cards as it should have affect all heroes. And I believe this is full copium. I'm pretty sure, but I'm ready to breathe that sweet copium, because these cards do indeed look horrible, or at least they do look that they are designed for the player
The new
versus
format.
player, like
Yeah.
the commander format that will like
Yeah.
getting later this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm
I
kind
think
of concerned
that
with
product is closely tied to Crystal Palace or whatever it was called. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Smash
that was the name.
Palace.
Smash Palace.
Smash Palace.
Smashing.
Yeah, I don't know, but we have seen a few cards for Balda that just green cards from the top of the deck. So
Yeah.
there's some part of that interactivity on fatiguing your opponent. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's an interesting one because it was delayed, and I have a feeling now it was delayed. I don't know. This is based absolutely zero on reality, but like it feels like it was almost delayed to make this Smash Palace game format come alive, and then I don't know. I feel like there's so much Guardian on Guardian hate in the card so far, and I don't think Guardians were struggling into Guardians, right? I think they were struggling into everybody else. Uh, but now we can see bare hands versus Cox as a YouTube gameplay video in the future. Bare hands versus Cox. That'll be fun. Okay, a little bit more of a serious topic. Alrighty, our next topic is our next topic is the game pricing out new players. In the last couple months, we've seen a lot of discussion around this kind of heavy pay to win kind of mentality. It is a TCG, though, I'm just gonna be honest. But we are seeing things like Florian costing $1,800, right? Even Rhinar costs about $1,200 to play. What's your guys' take on this?
um, Maybe starting in Pleasant Blood, you need to feel it more like a path that you have to walk, and maybe don't start buying everything, because I assume that everybody who wants to build a Florian deck has, at some point, if they have been playing the game for just a few months or maybe a year or so, they will have CNCs, they will have many of the stamples that reduce the cost drastically. Obviously, if you want to play the deck of the moment, you are paying the cost of playing it. But obviously, if you're a new player, you want to introduce yourself in the game, you have to maybe just, you don't need to spend $2,000 to go to
Yeah.
play your local armory. You can play any other of meta decks if you want to just have fun and just uh, use a lower price decks that maybe are not in the metagame. They will be in the future, and maybe you can spend these few months that you're starting rolling in the game to learn the basics and all the mechanics of these heroes, and maybe in the future they will they will be the S or A tier decks in the game. I remember one case and one of my local players. He was starting the game in heavy hitters, and he bought all the Runeblade pool, and it was cheap for him. And then Rosetta Rosetta came, and everything just, the price just go rocketing into the sky, and he had the cards to assume playing Vincent, Viserai, Florian, and
Yeah.
Aurora. Aurora maybe has more lightning and neutral cards, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You have the tools to play those decks. Imagine that someone who has bought all the mech pool now with high Cs is going to play the new mechanologist. So
Yeah.
it's fine.
Sergio, you were
I'm
the one that
the
joined later, so maybe you can share your experience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the Legend Flower Samurai, who started to play Flesh and Blood. I started in Bright Lights. Um, I when I started, the Sunflower Samurais we are from 3 different cities, and I'm local with Daniel. I speak with Daniel, and I say I want to start to play, and I don't want what I have to bow the first, and he say he knows me, he knows my I like the play style that I like to play. Uh,
Actually, you like your exactly words. I want to play the deck that everybody hates playing against. So you
yeah,
end up on Kano.
Beautiful.
yeah, that's it. So I started to play Kano. The Kano at that moment, the all the deck cost me about 150 euros.
Yeah.
I have to buy the boots, and the rest are really cheap. Uh, when I keep playing, I want to. I play the first pro quest with Kano, and I started to want more meta decks. But I started to play to vote all those things, the tunic, the command and conquer. That are really the
Pricey
cara,
ones.
que
Yeah.
no me sale.
Expensive
The
stuff.
pricey,
Yeah.
the expensive ones. When you have that, I started to play pools that from heroes classes that are not in the meta. I bought the assassin pool for about 200 before all the new explode, and I have almost every classes now, and I can say I bought all cheap. At this moment, I'm buying the brute card because
Are you going to be the next best brute player on the team after Pablo?
yeah, of course.
I'm never touching mine again. So that's that's not the opinion.
I'm gonna be the first fan.
You
um,
guys, you know
so,
Savage Land sets next, right? That's the copium I'm on right now, dude.
yeah.
Apparently, it's the next one.
So what I say, what I'm saying, Brute is really a cheap class right now.
Yeah.
The swing big about 12, 15 euros is very cheap.
Whoa.
The,
I need my cards over there, dude.
there are different there are different markets in
Yeah.
Europe,
Yeah.
States, different prices. In Europe now, both brute is very cheap. But well, of those, if you are not a meta chaser, it's cheap to start to play and proceed in a very organic way. uh, of course, there are problems like shelter. That
Yeah.
I thought shelter of the storm is the thing that make all those topic explode.
Yeah.
It's a very concrete card that a majestic defense reaction that have to be in all the decks uh, can be a majestic.
So let me jump in because I have some very strong opinions on this. And I mentioned already that we're going to be talking about what is the new player experience and what should
Yeah.
we be looking into there. So, first of all, like a new player, they don't need to have this fine tuned CC deck. We need to be very mindful that we cannot have like just one way of playing. Like a new player shouldn't be instructed to just go and buy this $2,000 deck. Like they can go to armories, they can start by borrowing a deck from someone else, they can just play not exactly optimized decks and grow organically. That's why when I saw this Project Blue announcement
Yeah.
earlier this month, that's lovely. That's a format that is pulling some attention from people. It looks real nice and a very natural way for people. And I just want to make an analogy here when it comes to spending and why do I say that people, the new players, don't need to be spending $2,000 when they start. Like let's talk about fishing, which is another lifestyle hobby. When you play TCGs, when you go fishing, when you are a runner, that's your lifestyle in a way. So to start fishing, it's very cheap. Like a normal fishing rod is going to cost you like $20, and you just go on the weekend and you just wake up early in the morning, take the car, and go fishing. Once you start thinking like, okay, now I need a good fishing rod because I want to have a weekend on a boat with my friends, that's going to cost you $5,000 just to go for
Yeah.
that weekend. Or I want a trip to Norway to fish for salmons. That's
Yeah.
what competing in the pro tour is relative to that. So fishing can be very cheap. It can also be very expensive once you get to the top. So if you want to compete, of course it's going to be expensive, but new players do not need to think about competing when they start.
Really good analogy. I really still super appreciate that analogy. Yeah, I mean, I think I also think that there's like set your expectations, and there's also like very clear ways to the top. I played an absolute dog shit hero for this entire time I've played Flesh and Blood, right? Rhinar is not really the best hero in the game, but I won Pro Quests. I won my RTNs. I qualified for Nationals. I qualified for Pro Tour. I got a top 8 on a calling, and I spent on Rhinar back before, the heavy hitter set and before KO, almost nothing, right? I think it was 3 copies of CNC was the most expensive thing I had to put into that, right? It was like scab skins were like $45, which is one of the cheapest equipment pieces of the game at that point in time. And I know other people who also play B tier, C tiered heroes who crush it because this is a game of skill at some level. And so I think exactly to your point, it's like, where do you want to be? Like, are you really, you know, this is your brand new hobby? Do you really want to buy like the Lamborghini and then see if you like the game? Like, no, go open cards, trade, have the community experience. And then, like, when you really think that this is the game for you, by then you should probably have enough of your armory wins and packs and stuff like that where you're like 40% of the way there, and then you just got to solidify your journey. I don't know. I do think the game's too expensive though. Shelter of the Storm I think that's a mistake, man. I think we're past the point where DRX should be Majestics. I think we know what happens when they print these kind of Majestics at generic level. So I really don't like seeing that. And then I also hope that they have some sort of reprint strategy in the works, or gem. I think gems was a really good highlight you guys mentioned before, because like some of these exclusive cards are becoming too pricey, like Armory Deck exclusives. I think that's another big failure to the new playing community. The KO Armory Deck cost $45 when it launched. Savage Sash costs $50 right now, right? I don't think that that's the way it should be working. I don't think Savage Sash should cost more than the entire Armory Deck. I think that's a huge mistake. I think that card needs to become reprinted, and I think there needs to be a strategy put out. But that's just my hot take there.
It's only like 18 euros in Europe. But
North America,
Yeah.
it is $45 right
North
now.
America crazy with price spikes.
We
and stuff.
are, but we also are the other issue is that we don't know the product is not available here. Like you couldn't buy an Armory Deck very early on, right? Like it was sold out. Almost all of the brand new Armory Decks in North America sold out. You can't get them. So what people are doing is they're incentivized to buy them in bulk, as many as they can get, take the exclusives out and sell them for as much as they bought the Armory Deck for, right? So we have like a double-edged sword here where these cards are so rare, we have so little product.
End stage capitalism.
Yeah, dude, capitalism's the
So
best,
weird.
man. How much is the Shelter of the Storm for you right now?
Was like 75 euros.
80.
80.
Okay, you guys have a very similar issue to our shelters.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
not almost
yeah.
stupid everywhere.
Yeah, but yeah, we have a availability issue in the States too. Since the Hunted set, the game has gotten significantly more popular here, and distribution has gone down. So it's like we're
Yeah.
we're hurting for new players
Well,
over here.
the fact about distribution, it has been everywhere. Like the distribution, it's impossible to get the Hunted in English here.
Yeah,
We have some
it's-
the Hunted in Spanish, and stores are limited to like 2 cases a month or something like that. So
yeah,
it's been like that everywhere. And the cards are going to be getting more expensive as
Yep.
the game grows, because
Yep.
the more boxes are open, just in looking for those Chase Majestics, the cards that are not supposed to be so as expensive, the cheaper ones are going to get even cheaper, but the more expensive ones are going to be more expensive, just so you get the same expected value out of the box. So it's going to get worse before it gets better, I assume.
I
Hope they
agree.
do something.
Some of the older sets are cheaper than the new sets, right? Like Everfest here. Like you could still get WTR sets here, but you can't get Rosetta and you can't get Hunted. It's kind of like a weird backwards problem we're experiencing. Okay. Any closing thoughts on this before we move on to the next topic?
Now that I think that's all the people in
No.
this call, I think that's devaluating our samples wouldn't be a problem, because as we are players, we want to play them. I mean, if I
Yeah.
have a 50% more people in my armory, but my warmonger cost less, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care. I want to play with people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm buying the cards. I want
Yeah.
to spend time with people playing the game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it would, or just a reprint strategy where like they make very similar cards at a class level. I don't know, like that way the originals. I don't know. I'm not the designer here. I don't have very good ideas.
Then you can play that card and Shelter of the Storm.
All right, never mind. Take it back.
Well,
Take me
in
out.
the next in the next side pack, we see the Command and Conquer for Ninja.
I mean, Brute's got their CNC, and I just still run
Yeah.
CNC and that one. So you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
I will
yeah.
just
Yeah.
I'll just double dip.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now a little bit more of a lighthearted segment here. High Seas is about to drop. And I don't know of my entire time, since my entire time in Flesh and Blood, if I've seen this level of hype, right? We really got to build up with Hunted. Rosetta seemed really well received, but pirates, guys, pirates. The videos, the pictures, people are dressing up as pirates all around the world. Twitter is going crazy. There's a freaking parrot that we're going to get to play with. What is your guys' takes on High Seas so far?
Best set ever. Like we cannot argue on this point, right? It has pirates on it. Like, to be honest, from an art point of view and design point of view, I believe that part of the Mistveil was what would attract most of the players on this team, right? As we came from other games and we have like strong attachments to these oriental themes and whatever. But I believe pirates are cooler, and like that's not an opinion, right? That's a fact. And
Pablo,
but I believe this is probably set to be one of the most thematic and fun sets we have seen this go around, at least like in this modern era of Flesh and Blood, because I believe they're like extremely good older designs that sadly didn't have access to the same tools and the same complexity as some of the new heroes.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see a new spin on Gatsu or on Bravo, right? As if they were released today. But I believe like there are some really interesting designs back in the day. But right now, I believe all three heroes are extremely, extremely interesting.
Yes.
Like, I really want to see how they play, because it kind of seems like they all rely on gold to perform like the special abilities. It's kind of like their chi, right? Their transcend cards.
Yeah.
But at the same time that they are relying on gold, we have also seen this RAM token, right? Like the drink, the liquor.
Yeah.
And I think that we are going to see a lot of play with that as well, because at least on Gravy Bones, I don't think he's going to have natural go again.
Yeah.
Or unlimited go again on
Yep.
his ally attacks. It will not be like Dromai. I expect, at least we have learned from Dromai. I expect LSS to have learned from Dromai.
Yeah.
So I do expect a set that is going to play with different hoops to jump through to get like your powerful plays to be done, and it to be at the same time it's going to be like really thematic, like attacking with ships and like
throwing the ship at you.
attacking with ships and like unearthing some treasures to get your gold in like reviving your death crewmates. And I don't know, it's so much hype. We have recorded our preview today.
It's amazing.
And we have had such a good time recording this one. So I'm 100% in to play the High Seas, and I'm only a little bit sad that the release event is on Taipei, which was like really far away from us and pretty expensive, and we couldn't like just justify flying there just to play a calling. But this set is looking so good. It's amazing.
Which hero are you excited about most?
All three, but yeah, like I wasn't that like hype on Puffing, but then I show Polycranka, and it's like, okay, now we're talking. Now there's a real hero in here.
Yeah.
Now, but I believe it's got to be Merlin.
Oh, I did not expect that answer.
Yeah, I think we're bound to see a heavy control focused ranger.
Ooh.
And I'm all in for that.
Ooh.
Yeah. We want to play some Riptide.
That's what I was thinking. I love Riptide. But
he seems like an aggressive Riptide. And I like to see that.
All right. Who's next?
Yeah, Merlin is very interesting because I think that we are going to see Merlin in two. I expect two archetypes. One with a lot of arrows, with his ability and 3 of a kind. And another one, the one that says Pablo, I expect a guardian. I expect wasn't
Oh.
something more like a guardian than like a ranger. Uh, the harpoons with his weapon. For six, a big attack of 9, 8, 9, 10, with an on hit that don't need crash. I think it's gonna be very similar to Guardian, but only have to hit one, not four.
Oh. I did not expect the Marlin love here. This is I'm caught off guard a little bit. Wow. Wow. I maybe need to
Why?
pay more. I truly just I like the idea of like the big barraging ranger, right? Because I kind of got that same Riptide vibe. I was like, okay, it's gonna be like this big kind of heavy, big crossbow style. But I also kind of figured the more natural approach would be like typical ranger, like kind of trying to go like a little bit more wide, shooting a little bit faster. And I was like, that didn't energize me quite as much as like a cog machine puffin generator. And yeah, necromancer, man. Like when I first joined the game, necromancer was like the class I wanted. It's why I started with Levia. And so when they announced that it's going to be not only a necromancer but a pirate necromancer, I was just like blown away. I was like, I didn't know I needed this, but I need this.
And
I'm just
I,
a
I
little bit sad because we don't have like a real pirate, right? A class
Oh,
that's only pirate on the set, or at least for now. Maybe they will surprise us. But at this point, I look at Gravy Bones and I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to love this guy. The
yeah.
art is really good, but why does he need to be dead? Yeah, he's a necromancer, but he doesn't need to be dead. I like his young hero art, right? I
Yeah.
want to play a pirate. This looks like way too ethereal, right? Like this
Yeah.
looks like something out of a fairy tale. And the only one of those three that really fits the theme of a real
Okay.
pirate, is
Real.
Merlin. This far.
Okay.
Yeah, I must say I'm not a huge pirate fan. For example, we just mentioning that this other set, pardon me as well. That was the one that was calling me, but I have seen a trend with this set, and I just looking at people talking Twitter and whatever. It's a wacky set as well.
Yeah.
They are embracing the wacky set, and I really love wacky. Like
Mhm.
again, I'm not a big fan of pirates, but I remember playing Sea of Thieves together.
Yeah, that's a good
And I
one.
just want means to actually put a monkey into the cannon and throw it in the sky and thing like in Pleasant Dot. So yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the thing I'm more, I'm just like, okay, the hunted in the limited part, the hunted felt really well. This
Yeah.
minigame of marking your opponent, chasing, being chased, all this harassment, or I marked you are creating field, this all that stuff. The hunted for me was a super pick in the
Mhm.
limited sealed part, and this one feels like, oh, there's also a minigame of hitting your opponent and getting gold. The
Yeah.
limited part looks like super good.
With a new macro, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the new macro. And it feels like all the limited part when we played heavy hitters were like, oh yeah, weather is fine, classing is fine, but it doesn't feel like you're introduced into the lore of the set.
Mm.
But with the Hunted, they did a super peak on that way. And this time I think with high seas will be like a blast.
Yeah.
I must say I'm forced to intervene here and say that while I do think that thematically the Hunted was a great success on Unlimited, it could have seen some improvements maybe on the gameplay. I don't like sets where die roll is so much important.
Yeah. I'm talking about
Because you're talking about the set.
the lore wise
I,
perspective.
Lore.
I know
It's not
what you
about
meant.
balance.
I just want people to understand what you meant as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, it's all about how it feels.
Yeah, for sure. I also think I think you highlight one of you guys already highlighted this, but like this instead of these heroes just being your generic kind of like I do a lot of damage 4 4 4 4, each one of them seems like they're set up to do like a bunch of really convoluted kind of interactive mechanics to execute their game plan. Gravy's like dumping stuff in his graveyard, pitching, getting rid of blues, putting yellows face down, can't block with allies, blah, blah, blah. Puffin's like generating action points through cogs, doesn't have boost. Marlin's got like this weird kind of like funky crossbow style. All of the heroes just seem so interesting. And then there's a whole new mechanic, right? Tap is also introduced in the game, which supposedly is going to open up a lot of design avenues for the Flesh and Blood, design team.
Yeah, and I feel that going forward, this tapping and untapping mechanic is going to become the norm. So we are going to be seeing the old heroes that do not have that phasing out, and from now on, the abilities will not be like once per turn unless there's some very specific reason for them to be, and they're just going to be tapped. Because I just saw this card, I just saw it today, that if it crushes you, it taps you. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense if all of the heroes need to be tapping to do their actions.
Yeah,
I think
they
that's what
just
we have
remade Bravo, right? Like in the Smash Palace, there's a new version of Bravo
Yes.
that also has tapping. Like there's a whole new avenue of like interaction. And I think I heard Brian on one of the interviews say like tapping adds an entire level of flexibility that they didn't have before from a design perspective, which is super exciting. You know, I don't know. Did you also see the Zuppy? I'm gonna plug Zuppy here real quick for the memes, dude. The memes keep coming.
Absolute banger memes.
Banger memes. Iyslander with a pirate hat. In that same interview, James White and Brian said there's a big surprise coming in the next set. Is it going to be Pirate Iyslander? Probably not, but that's hilarious.
One thing I can for certain, like whenever James say something, you need to look into that and look into the 2 and 3 meanings that they have. I can just remember the moment he said that the worlds would be in a European city with bright lights. And it was like, yeah, Paris. No, it was not Paris. It was Barcelona, but it was with bright lights.
With the
Yeah.
set, yeah.
Yeah, with the set, yeah.
They always like to sneak in like little tidbits, like I mean, we saw the necromancy spoiled like not that long ago. They always put in a card that leads to the next set. They always, or 2 sets from now. They always, there's always a little bit. All right, so the hype is real. Puffin's coming. We can play it with a bird. It's gonna be the best. This final segment, we're gonna do this rapid fire. Okay, real quick. These are polls from Twitter, social media, all the like. They're hot takes from community members. We're just gonna give our like 1-2 quick answer. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Our first one here is one of my favorites. Matthew, aka Techlocore, aka one of the loudest people on social media. He said, somebody at my ProQuest recently had the audacity to tell me that 2023 Lexi was more oppressive than current Aurora. And then Lucas Oswald, another loud person in the community, was surprised people disagree with this because he thinks Aurora is more oppressive. I'll go first. No, you're definitely wrong. Sorry,
Lexi
guys.
was more oppressive.
Yeah, Lexi sucked. She could do everything. She did all the damage, had on hits, got rid of your arsenal, and then gave you a frostbite to ruin your turn. What's your guys' take on this?
First,
I'm just thinking.
I want to say that both are really loud, but both are really nice people.
Oh,
Let's
of course.
get that out of the way.
Of course.
First.
I'm friends with Matthew and Lucas. Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that while Lexi is a much more powerful deck, right? If we compare them in a vacuum, I do think that Lexi had to fight against a much more hostile metagame. She was fighting against both Oldhim and Dromai, which were also batshit insane decks, right? Insanely powerful decks.
True.
So while the deck is more powerful, and I do agree 100% with that, I do think that Aurora has to be more oppressive in her metagame because she did not have anyone to stand up to her. Like, the second most powerful deck in the format was Enigma, which was actually a really good matchup for Aurora, right? Like, even if the Aurora was not prepared at all for the matchup, it was still a positive percentage for her, I believe. So, yeah, if we do compare the vacuum, 100% sure Lexi was more powerful.
Yeah.
If we take into account what decks were they playing against, I believe Aurora takes the spot.
Good take. You're always so rational, level-headed, and kind, man. That's so funny.
I do still believe.
I'm gonna say this.
I do still believe that in Lexi meta, you either play Lexi or you play against Dexy, and that's not that hasn't been the same case for Aurora exactly. I believe. I think that just the fact that we had like 12 or to 15 more heroes right now, it gave you an avenue to explore other areas that it didn't happen with Lexi because we had a quite tighter meta game. And in my feeling, like Lexi felt a bit more like it was either play Lexi or play Oldhim, or you could be one of those people that play Dromai or whatever. But that's for me.
I'm gonna say just the same of you. It's the same damage input with the control of the frostbite at the end.
No.
So Lex is worse.
Yeah.
I will only say that one of those decks had Codex of Flirty, and the other one no. And that's all. I think it's only a fact. Only a fact.
Codex of Filthy is a fun and balanced card. I don't know what you're talking
We
about.
said something about not antagonizing people.
Fun and balance. Next post. We've been getting some Magic the Gathering pros playing Flesh and Blood. I mean, we've probably always had this, but recently they're doing quite well in some of our tournaments. Recently we saw second place at the Calling, right? From Andrea Mengucci, I think is I hope I said his name or their name correctly. But recently he's been pretty interactive on social media, talking about Flesh and Blood, talking about the game, which I think is amazing. But one of his call outs, I hope their call outs, I'm unsure, giving invites to Nationals, Pro Tours, and Worlds based on ELO is a major issue. And that issue is that it incentivizes players not to play the game, regardless of skill level. We should be encouraging players to play the game no matter what. Again, I actually have always held this opinion. Back in the day when I had over 1,800 ELO, right? I was actually afraid to go to my local events because why would I not just ride out my free invites for perpetuity, right? I think I was ranked 13 in the world. So it was like I was never going to get knocked down of free invites. And at one point, I just made the decision, especially when I stopped being competitive, that that's dumb and I should play events. And then I lose one event, go negative, and gave out 65 ELO to one of my friends. And I always thought that was kind of not super fun. I don't know. What's your guys' take on that?
The system has to incentivize you for playing games. So as you said, if you at the end, the ELO has like this range of you're not qualified for nationals. ELO is super important. Then you have this range of the top 65 that can affect like maybe the double of the players. 150 players are fighting for being in the top 65, and for the rest of the players, ELO doesn't matter because being in 170 in 17 or being in 16 is the same. It's exactly the same. It doesn't have any incentive to keep playing. So I think that having an additive system that you can only uh, improve your number more than losing something if you go into a tournament, I think is good. Anyway, in this system, the player who wins the last tournament, the last big tournament, is the one who is in the first spot in low. So, what do you have to say, Pablo?
I believe it's just an outdated system that does not work on card games because we do not have the amount of variance needed for an ELO system to work, like in chess, right? If you're playing against Magnus Carlsen, you're going to lose. You're 100% going to lose, right? If you're like 600 ELO points below him. If you play against Michael Hamilton, you may win the game because he may brick, he may draw 30 reds in a row, right? These things happens because we are playing card games, and I don't think that translates well enough into what we want to be doing here. The system has been a problem for its whole existence, I believe, and the newest change to PTIs makes this even worse because if you qualify for the next Pro Tour by like top 18, the current Pro Tour, like it usually means nothing because you're already getting also qualified because you're on the top 75, right? ELO leaderboard. So it also creates some problems with the pricing, and I believe it just needs to go. And I'm really happy they have finally announced it, that it's sunsetting on 2026.
Yeah, I'm glad it's gone because again, it makes no sense. And maybe in the States it's not such a big issue, but here in Europe for countries that have like nationals to a size that it impacts people that just started playing. There were people at 100, at 1500 ELO, and they were like, "Oh, I do not have to play any tournaments because if I just go 1502 ELO, I can qualify for my
Oh my
nationals." And it's like,
gosh, I didn't even think about that.
so yeah, it was actually impacting people that were new to the game because they were saying that if they played another pro quest and they lost 3 games, they maybe didn't qualify for nationals. Just glad it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Spain, the qualification for the nationals are 140.96 or 1,496 about that. So enforces everybody to not play when you are there. I think like should be changed with an additive uh, format that makes some decay for the to not get out all the new players.
Yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
play games.
Yeah, just play the
That's
game.
what it's
That's
to
what
do.
it's here for, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you should be enjoying yourself no matter what. I also hate to be disincentivized to play something fun. I hate that, right? Like, it's like I could bring this fun deck to a tournament that I don't really care about because I'm already invited, or I can't because I'll lose all my ELO and then I just hurt myself in the long run. Yeah. All right. Nathan Crawford, big voice in the community. Normally, I mean, almost always a beacon of level-headedness and just positivity, right? And he said, "I'm going to keep it 100. Having nationals on release date is a bad decision. It makes limited a guessing game with so little time to prep. For CC, my flight is on Wednesday morning, and the earliest the cards can get to me is after the pre-release on Monday." What's your guys' take on this one? Because I think LSS has self-admitted that this is a weird case. I don't know if it was
I,
necessarily on
I tell you
purpose,
what.
but
I tell you what. This is not the decision from LSS.
yeah,
This is an issue of, okay, we need to do nationals with SCG, and they have the venue already locked for this weekend, so it has to be in this weekend because we cannot have the same venue
true.
this weekend and 2 weeks after. So they, looking at that, they backtrack and they went like, okay, then we have to make sure that people can actually buy the product on the
Mhm.
pre-release weekend. So they essentially push the release of the set 1 week earlier
Yep.
because it was not the decision on doing it on that weekend.
Yeah, that's actually
Simple as that.
99% most likely the answer, right? I love I love the grounded in reality there, dude. Not every
I,
decision is a bad decision, guys. Sometimes
yeah,
it's just owning a business. you
yeah,
know?
and I don't think they like it either in LSS. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's how it goes. Like, to fight for venues and space, it's hard.
it is.
So
It is. All
And
right.
I believe we all agree that it is a problem
Yeah.
to try and get your cards so
Yeah.
fast for a big tournament. I don't think the limited part is that bad
Yeah.
actually. Like, you, if you are not prepared, so are the other players also practicing on this tournament. It should
Yeah.
impact all of you equally, but
Mhm.
it's not the same on the card availability problem, which I believe is huge, like
Yeah.
really big.
Totally agree. Yeah, like especially if
And
there's another one of those jacked cards in there, right? Like that is going to give you a percentage increase on your CC deck and you can't get it or you don't have the money to get it. Yeah. What did
yeah,
you just flash on the screen?
yeah, he's distracting me.
I didn't see it. All right. And our final point of the day. This is from Dylan. TCG Talk. My opinions have changed daily, but this is what I think I've settled on for the Flesh and Blood bans. And they put in the chat, ban CYB. Shouldn't be in the game. Ban Wildfire or open the floodgates. Ban Scepter. Ban Remembrance. Ban Three of a Kind. There's more. Ban or unban Plunder Run, which I think is absolutely wild. And then unban Bonds of Ancestry for Katsu. Maybe just bring it restricted at red. What's your guys'
Never.
takes on the bans?
No.
Yeah,
You don't want to play a game with Katsu with bonds again, okay?
yeah.
with Bonds and Plunder Run.
And Plunder
Yeah.
Run, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit of trolling on that on that tweet, but
maybe their call out specifically we could kind of ignore because a little wild on the Plunder Run thing. But what are you guys hoping for the bans and restricted announcement?
no, but
No,
every
I really
time
like how this message is structured. Like, I 100% agree with like the first five cast that you said, and I 100% don't agree with the last two, right? I really don't want Plunderran and Bonds of Ancestry back into the game. I believe both are extremely, extremely dangerous over the top cards that push aggressive strategies much more than they do need right now, right? But I agree with all of the other cards. I do think that Three of a Kind can become a pretty real problem with Merlin, and CYB is probably just good for the health of the game. Maybe not for like the most competitive level of the game. I could see Remembrance going away, but Scepter feels a little bit wild to me too. I hope there are ways to adapt to it in the metagame rather than just banning it, because I believe it's a fun weapon that finally has a use.
Yeah, it looks like super contextual, right? To this specific moment. I need this specific ban, but maybe it won't be that problem in 3 months. But at the end, I think LSS has shown us that they are like super aimed on ban exactly what they have to do. I remember back in the past when they banned Autumn stats specifically for Starbo, was like, how did you? No one in the game will just imagine that point. And maybe hitting the big hits, the big cards that make decks be like irregular, like throwing with Three of a Kind on these big hits in the deck may be weird because make do the game a little bit like boring.
Yeah, but then just remember what happened to Starbo afterwards, like 1,560 points of living so,
yeah, but you can play Fatigue, Starbo.
You couldn't play Fatigue because that was bad.
Just play the casino. Go for it.
Clearly, he left in the Twitter that unban Stubis and unban Belitel to make 5 great.
No, I'm just 100% with Kano, but I double down and say ban both. Like I don't want to face a Kano anymore.
Yeah, ban Kano, dude. Honestly,
like these people know that I get very angry when I face Kano.
No, exactly. Do the opposite. Buff Kano until the stars. Go live in Legend and ban it.
I agree.
But just tell me in advance so I can take some nice 3 months of Flesh and Blood, right? If you're going to do that.
Let me take a vacation with the Kano meta. Yeah, dude. I have a wild one. Ban Blood Rush Bellows. Just let me have what brutes are intended to.
Powerful casting brute again.
Dude, just delete Mandible Claws already. Please, everybody go play KO. Get KO LL'd so I can get rid of Mandible Claws and I can actually have a decent brute card released in the next set. Please. I'm tired of it. All 3 brutes are Blood Rush machines. They don't feel different from each other. Let's get them out of here. That's it. Closing statement. You know, let's make brute worse. All right, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you guys so much for coming on the channel. I will always be grateful. We had a big issue this one. We had to reshoot the whole thing, so my bad. Wasted 2 hours of their time. Pablo's sick, and he held on like a champ. So,
no, thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you guys around.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank
it's
you.
It's been a pleasure.
See you.
Bye.